you ready?
Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, and Scott Robbins.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Making sense of it all.
Now I get it.
And having some fun.
They want to happen.
Of
Talking
course.
about the Biden administration, the left, everyone's in concert together on this. They want to ignore it. They actually want people to come in, and I don't know how else to say it other than this is further proof. The feds are about to start releasing a ton of migrants from custody.
Yeah, Bill Malugin reported per multiple CBP sources last night, leadership made decisions to authorize all Border Patrol sectors to begin street releases of migrants to communities across the border if non-governmental organization shelters and facilities do not have the capacity to hold them. So in other words, if you're at a room, all right, we're going to have the quote-unquote safe release of people. And in practical terms, what that means is you're about to see a whole hell of a lot more video of people being seen milling around at bus stops, gas stations, supermarkets, etc., in communities across the border as illegal crossings continue to surge to record highs ahead of the Title 42 drop in a couple days.
Yeah. It's so frustrating.
I read a piece today that was talking about all of a sudden the rest of America is waking up to this issue because they're being dumped on their doorstep now.
Yeah.
Where all of a sudden they're like, what was the problem before is become our problem, and now it's a problem.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's really remarkable. But before it was like, it's, some town in Texas, whatever, blah, blah.
Yeah, who cares?
We love immigrants, yeah.
That was the thing about DeSantis sending the migrants to Martha's Vineyard.
That started the whole thing, yeah.
Well, and it was into D.C.,
yeah.
and then it's New York, and then it's Chicago, and it's Colorado, and everybody's like, well, we love the poor and the migrants, but we can't have them here.
We got a real problem at the border.
Yeah, I'll just homer here. What started it was Greg Abbott sending buses.
Yes.
No, you're right.
Up to New York and all that. And then the Martha's Vineyard was a really funny stunt, but I think the interesting thing, and I'll freely admit that I underestimated the plan that Greg Abbott put into place and former governor of Arizona Doug Ducey put into motion. I thought, okay, this is kind of a funny stunt. Maybe they'll make a point here, get some news coverage about it, and then I never expected how quickly these woke mayors in places like Philadelphia, New York, D.C., Chicago would fold. I didn't realize how quickly they would turn around and say, whoa, this is a crisis. This is costing us billions of dollars.
You know why? Because all the people that voted for them actually got to see the real problem and experience it, and were beating down their doors saying, what can we do about this? We're tapped. We don't have any money. We don't have any place to put these people. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, those, long speeches about bring me the unwashed masses, all of a sudden stopped. Mm-hmm. Right. Because, it's a real problem. And then you're talking about, we got to find out the root causes, blah, blah, blah. It's all been a load of BS the entire time because they've wanted all these people to come here illegally. That's what they've wanted. And the American people, if you look at the polling, are not for it. So we'll see what happens.
Well, even the ones who were initially for it are starting to turn now.
Yes.
Yeah, because, again, it's happening to us.
Again, and listen, man, it may not be the answer for everything, but I'm always curious, these people that feel so strongly about how our government should act as far as these just poor people wanting a better life. Do you do anything for these people currently in Guatemala? In any of these countries that are coming here? Have you done anything for people in Mexico? Have you done anything for anybody anywhere at any time given to a charity that are serving these people around the world? The answer is usually no, they don't. They just want to feel good about it that their government's doing on someone else's dime.
Or if they do, it's a gala event. It's a black tie event to raise money for poor people.
Yes. And then they feel like, see, we're partying tonight for a good cause. Yes. Sickening. Okay, you got a clip of Karine Jean-Pierre.
Yeah, the White House has a funny take on this whole debt limit showdown where Republicans are trying to rein in spending before agreeing to any deal to up our credit limit as a nation.
Mm-hmm.
Saying, look, I know that we've got to do something to meet our current obligations, but moving forward, let's drop down what our future obligations will be.
Your spending's been out of control.
Yes,
We've talked about your spending. Imagine if that's your kid.
Right.
Well, no, I've got bills now that you got to help me pay. No, I told you to stop spending the freaking money. But you don't do it.
Nope.
And then you want bailed out. All right, box checker, let's hear it.
If you buy a car, you are expected to pay the monthly payments. If you buy a home, you are expected to pay the mortgage every month.
Yep.
That is the expectation. That is the spending that you put forth or spending that you may have done before, and now you're paying it every month. If you do not pay your car payment, if you do not pay your mortgage payment, then your credit is going to be bad.
That's correct.
It's going to hurt your credit.
Mm-hmm.
So let's look at Congress for a second. This is spending that they've already done. They've already spent. Let's not forget the $2 trillion Trump tax cuts that they were willing and happy to vote for.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So we're telling them or saying to them, do your job. Pay for something that you've already spent on.
No. You are saying, no, we want unlimited credit for the future, even though we're up to our eyeballs in debt.
Yeah.
And someone's saying, no, it needs to stop.
In the back, I'm going, student loan forgiveness.
Well, I mean, yeah, this is the same administration that not only wants to forgive student loan debt, but also to punish good credit home buyers to help bad credit home buyers.
We call it equity.
Yeah. So about this whole
shove it.
thing about living within your means and paying your debts. Interesting.
When you're paying on a car, you know how much the car is when you buy it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't have any idea what this is about.
Oh, in the future?
Yeah.
Oh, we have a decent idea. It's insanity.
Just crazy.
Yes, absolutely. It's one of the reasons we're in the problem that we're facing right now economically, is because you spent a ton of money that we did not need to spend.
Donald Trump tax cuts, that's what did it.
Of course. And then you have the legacy media apparatus that will support those arguments even though they make no sense. It's just where we are. It's just interesting to hear someone on the left talking about how you need to pay your bills.
Right.
That's a new one. Okay, you got a clip of Joe Biden. What's this, David?
Joe Biden spoke at an event to celebrate Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month or whatever, AAPI.
By the way, I heard this for the first time the other day. I had not heard it before this year. I might be the only one.
The Heritage.
Did you know it was a thing?
I remembered it maybe last year or the year before, it was last year, I guess, because they were talking about a rise in anti-Asian hate crimes. And I was like, well, you're not really talking about who a lot of the perpetrators are, huh? You're sort of leading people to believe that it's like angry white MAGA bros doing this, and it's not.
No, oftentimes it's black males, but those black males could be like the Hispanic guy that's also a white supremacist down in Texas.
Right, exactly.
Because we learned from The View yesterday, you can be a person of color and still be a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What seemed impossible isn't.
So
correct.
Joe Biden at this Heritage Month event made a reference to Asian American producer Joan Shigekawa.
Joan Shigekawa.
And you can guess how this went.
Oh, buddy.
You ready?
No, but go ahead.
Joan Shingang. I'm going to pronounce it.
Oh, stop it right there.
Did he say I'm going to pass away?
What was it? Hold on.
Joan Shingang. I'm going to pronounce it.
What? Okay, this is a 12-second clip. I can't get past the first 3 seconds. I apologize. But this is something, man.
Joan Shingang. I'm going to pronounce it. Shanga Kawawa. I think I pronounced it correctly.
No, you didn't.
She can call me Joe Biden.
Oh, you can go. See, call him Joe Biden. Shikagawa. It's a Japanese name. I understand it doesn't roll off the tongue for a lot of American English speakers, of course. And
he's reading it, though.
He's reading it.
And they spell it out for him.
Phonetically, I would think.
And the amazing thing is this is actually the second time within 2 months that he's butchered her name and made the same joke. She can call me Biden. This is from a White House event in March. He made the same joke at the end of butchering her name.
Roll it.
The contribution of Joan, Shigakawa. Thank you. I have trouble pronouncing it. You can call me Bidden.
He's the same joke even.
Oh, my goodness.
Except this time it was Joan Shishki Wawa. I think I got that right.
Shingang. Shanga.
What is he saying here? I was going to pronounce it. It's like a slur fest. Like, I didn't pronounce it. What?
It was, excuse me, I want to pronounce it right.
That was?
Yes, that was.
I didn't hear excuse me anywhere in there.
I think he felt like he was actually dying. I think he said, excuse me, I'm going to pass away. I think that's what he said.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, I think that's closer to pronounce it right. He's literally dying trying to pronounce it. It's going to pass away.
I won't close my eyes the rest of the night.
All right, one last time, sorry.
Joan. Shingang.
Yeah, I'm going to pass away. Yeah. If you keep having me read these names, I'm going to lose it. I won't be able to breathe.
Then he calls her Wawa at the end of it.
Kawawa.
The Wawa.
I think I pronounced it correctly.
And then I think I pronounced it right.
Nailed it. Kawawa.
Yep.
That's your name.
Scoreboard, my peeps.
Like hearing him do PA at a Major League Baseball game.
Oh,
Wouldn't that
man.
be fun?
All right. Much to get to, including what the lockdowns have done to us, even years later now. Straight ahead. All right. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, Scott Robbins. Happen to see this piece. Yeah, this was Wall Street Journal. Lockdowns are over, but the damage goes on. I'm like, okay, yeah. I think we still hear a lot about that. It talks a little bit about Fauci. But then, part I wanted to bring up was the CDC. Reported the other day that deaths from unintentional injuries, largely drug overdoses, last year exceeded those from COVID. Well, yeah. We knew that with young people for quite a while.
Yes.
Politicians blame fentanyl pouring over the border, which has contributed, but notably, drug deaths were flat in the 2 years preceding the pandemic. They spiked only as government lockdowns took hold, plateauing early last year as life finally returned to normal.
How many times were, we called grandma killers or science deniers by bringing up the idea that, especially for somebody relatively new in recovery, you cut out the support systems, including NA and AA meetings for people.
Yep.
And then you isolate them. Guess
Right.
what happens?
And you take away their job.
Yeah.
Yeah. This was all predicted.
Depression.
Yes. So they said, yeah, there was fentanyl, but there was also meth. Those deaths more than doubled. Cocaine deaths rose 54%.
Wow.
Man.
And that doesn't account for the increase in drug-related deaths that aren't a result of overdoses. They also mentioned this piece, politicians treat weed as harmless, but it's been linked to a significantly higher risk of stroke and heart attacks. I hadn't heard much about that.
Well,
Well, if
doesn't
you're
that make
smoking
sense if you're smoking it?
Yeah.
Yes. I just hadn't heard that. It does make sense. Yes. And, of course, we talked about this before. So has abuse of prescription stimulants like Adderall, to which young people increasingly turned to during the pandemic. Analysis of insurance claims found Adderall prescriptions, check it, increased 58% between 2018 and 2022 among adults 22 to 44. Now there's a shortage of the drug for, talk show hosts in their 50s because manufacturers haven't been able to keep up with the demand.
And for those who have to work with him,
Yeah, right.
the constant on-hold music at the pharmacy while waiting to talk to somebody.
But actually, you just find you have to change scripts, and then you are like, well, I can't do extended release. They don't have it anymore. So you got to, it's been crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Like to get off of it anyway. But that's a story for another time. So as the story wraps up, it says, well, premature deaths and drug use, no doubt, are among the reasons for the persistent worker shortage. Because there is a worker shortage. And then it says, well, a lot of people are working now. The number of native-born Americans in the workforce has risen 2.8% since January 2021. So when the White House is talking about, well, labor force participation among 25 to 54-year-olds has finally returned to the pre-pandemic levels.
You're right.
Okay. Native-born Americans, that's 2.8% versus 12.2% for people here often illegally.
Ah, I see.
Employers are no doubt happy that the immigration crush is making it easier to hire, but what will happen to all the young Americans who drop out of life is the question. So, yeah, you're not even getting into the loss of learning with kids and depression, anxiety that has gone through the roof for these kids all across America because of the lockdowns. Which, by the way, those switching gears here, it is Teacher Appreciation Week.
Really, I hadn't heard.
It is.
It's nowhere.
You're saying you're seeing it all over the place?
Every time I
Scott?
turn on the TV, yeah. There's some Jerry Lewis check going to some school in the local news every night.
So they did a survey. More than 1,000 teachers, 75% say they'd love to have any appreciation shown through gift cards or items purchased off their Amazon wish list.
Oh.
They say, well, a lot of times that's filled with classroom supplies, things like that. I mean, sometimes it might be something else. And I know you sound like the old crotchety person saying, back in my day, what? Teacher appreciation and gifts and gift cards for the teachers. It's not. There are a lot of teachers that I think are really good at their job. And if you want to say, hey, man, it's really good, or, Miss Thought, you did a great job, that's cool. But to feel like the pressure to do it?
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I don't know.
People just start a trend, and then it just snowballs.
You used to bring the teacher an apple or something,
Okay. I just hate feeling out of obligation. It's like, well, do you want a tip?
Well, Hallmark creates a lot of holidays, too.
Well,
I understand.
But
Sell
also,
a crap load of cards.
Teachers' unions and whatnot have done a very good job in making it seem like teaching is the hardest profession on the face of the planet, and
But
teachers
people are
aren't
tired of
appreciated
that.
enough. And it's like, I'm sorry, but if the average salary is $56,000 a year and you get guaranteed holidays, health care benefits, summers off, things like that, you're doing pretty well, actually.
Oh, yeah.
Not a lot of other jobs that offer that kind of package.
No. I'm not saying it's an easy gig.
I had great teachers. I had a couple of really great teachers, yeah.
I understand. But, I mean, people think of teachers now, like, what do you teach my kid in class? You're not quite sure. All right, David's got a humdinger of a story you don't want to miss. Straight ahead. Yeah. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. As always, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. I'm Jamie Markley. I'm the Gen Xer. The Millennial, that's David Van Camp. And then the sexy boomer, Scott Robbins.
Joan, Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it, Shanga,
Keep trying.
Kawawa.
Wawa.
I think I pronounced it correctly.
No, you didn't. Not even close. That was embarrassing. Joe Biden's son, Hunter, may be indicted. That's the word. This week. Could be tomorrow. We'll wait to see. I did see this story. The New York Post was reportedly denied press credentials for a White House event that took place yesterday. You're not allowed. Mm-hmm. Now, if Trump did that, I think we would hear, end of democracy.
Oh, yeah. Remember when he kicked was it a Univision or Telemundo reporter out? And this was just an assault on democracy and the First Amendment itself. Trump is a dictator. Pop.
The way you do that, David, pop. It just kills me.
That's the sound of liberals crying.
According to the New York Post report, of some 50 seats that had been reserved for reporters, 20 remained empty throughout the president's remarks. But no room for you, New York Post.
Yeah, no.
Not welcome. Mm-hmm. Because that Miranda Devine over there, she's the one that reported on this Hunter laptop back in 2020. Even though we got, and we know this to be true, the White House was able to silence big tech and media from covering that.
Oh, yeah.
And then you had the intel agencies. Oh, this is all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Mm-hmm. No, it's true. That laptop is real. And we can get into this a little bit later. What will happen if Hunter does get indicted? And Miranda Devine from the New York Post, she doesn't know, but she's wondering, thinking, is Joe setting the stage to pardon Hunter Biden? Because if so,
oh boy,
it's over.
Dude.
As far as the presidency.
I hadn't even thought about that as a possibility.
Well,
Holy
this
smokes.
is all speculation by what he said the other day. My son has done nothing wrong. I trust him. I have faith in him. And it impacts my presidency by making me feel proud of him, which I still don't quite understand that statement. But yeah, we'll wait and see what happens there.
I wonder, to me personally, if, because, let's start with the premise that a lot of people in the Biden family are not very good people, very vindictive individuals who have, a checkered relationship with basic dignity and humanity.
And truth, yeah.
And truth. And so if I'm just gaming this out for a second. Let's say, for the sake of argument, Hunter Biden gets indicted for some tax fraud thing or not reporting taxes accurately, and he decides he's going to cut a deal with the Justice Department.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that deal, what if that involves, or hell, man, maybe even cuts a deal with congressional Republicans to go testify? And what if Daddy Joe is involved in this? And I'm just thinking out loud here. Mm-hmm. In some of what Hunter Biden has to say. The political fallout for any of that would be infinitely worse than if Joe Biden pardoned his own son. So I think while it's a terrible look,
yeah,
I think if I'm gaming it out and if I think that's even a possibility, if Hunter says, "Daddy dearest, I'm going to roll on you if you don't give me a pardon," I'd probably just take the kick with the pardon.
Interesting. Part of this, too, is the U.S. Attorney, David Weiss. What charges are we talking about? Is this about the gun charge?
Yeah.
Some sort of taxes? Or are we going into the Biden family business? Because that's the big one. And I think that's the one that, most people in America are most interested in. Like, okay, was Joe the big guy that got 10% of these deals, with China, Ukraine, Russia? I mean, that's the big deal. Are those charges going to come? And then, what is Merrick Garland going to do with them?
Well, he's got to follow through on all of this, doesn't he?
Well, no, not really.
Well, you would think, yes.
Yeah, you would think you almost have to.
But we've seen things in the last few years that we never thought we would see before.
Well, someone should just let Merrick Garland know that the Bidens are devout Catholics, and he'll be on the warpath. Merrick Garland's Justice Department hates Catholics.
He doesn't like any religion, but no, that one in particular.
Yes. So we'll wait and see how that shakes up.
Shaky Shakerson.
Yeah.
When he gets this one handed to him.
And more on that a little bit later in the show. But it's that time of the show where we go around the table, and it may not be the biggest story of the day, but it caught your attention. Today, we start with David. What's your story?
This is another controversy that I don't think is much of a controversy, but it's reminiscent to me of the whole horsewhipping at the border non-scandal.
Okay.
But a TSA worker apparently was caught on video, and I saw the video expecting something worse than it was, training a dog on the leash. And it was going to be a service animal, apparently. And as you see, the worker is leading the dog on the leash back and forth through a major walkway area and somewhat violently turning suddenly and pulling the dog. And a couple of times the dog slides on the floor around. A couple of times the dog kind of jumps and gets a little bit airborne and all of that. And I've seen a lot of commentators on the left and the right saying, like, oh, this TSA worker should be nowhere near animals or anything. And the TSA has actually taken this guy off of animal handling duties. So I saw the story and I thought, oh, man, this must be really egregious. And I watched it. And I'm sorry, but anybody who's been around dog training can tell you, now there may be different theories about whether or not it's effective. It's a totally normal part of leash training that this guy is doing. It's the corrective U-turn is what some people call it, where you are teaching the dog to stay at a particular location, heel, when it's walking on the leash, And part of the way you get it to focus on where it's supposed to be is you make a very sudden U-turn and you pull the dog. It's a completely normal thing. I saw the video and I thought, this guy got pulled off of his duties for this?
Tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, we're not just talking about that kind of dog, but a regular dog.
Yeah.
And you're going to a dog training class, especially if it's a bigger dog. Yes, to get the dog to heel. I mean, it's a jerk. It's
yes.
Like, you got to let them know you're on there. Boom.
Yeah, it serves two folds. It's one, it establishes dominance, and then the other thing is it gets the dog out of their own headspace, whatever they're looking at, or thinking about going and doing. Hey, I want to go sniff that. I want to do this. No, it snaps them out of it, and it gets them to focus on you again, because that's the job of the dog, is to focus on what you're doing. And I'm looking at this dog. Dog's in a harness, not even a martingale collar or a choke collar or anything like that. A harness, actually. I can't imagine the dog got hurt. But the TSA puts out a statement saying this is unacceptable.
I've said this many, many times. You can do some of the most heinous, awful things on the planet to human beings. And while people may be disgusted by it, do it to a dog, do it to an animal, they'll lose their freaking minds. It happens all the time.
I understand.
There's more value put on the life of the animal than there are people.
Yes.
And sometimes I think that's the right way to go.
But sometimes you are a bit of an animal nut, to be honest.
I am. I admit that, yeah.
So you don't like the little jerk on the
I got
chain.
no problem with that, because the dog has a job.
What if the dog didn't have a job and you're just training the dog?
Well, I don't know what I'm doing training a dog.
Well, you were told that you really got to give it a good, solid jerk. You wouldn't do it.
I probably wouldn't.
And that's just it.
I'd have
Because
an
some people
untrained
hate
dog,
discipline.
And then you would come over and then you would complain about my dog being untrained.
But, especially, if you're talking a 40, 50-pound dog or even bigger, you have to be pretty rough. Not abusive. I mean, don't go Michael Vick on the dog. But, you've got... but you do actually have to pull harder than you think is necessary.
Right.
Because you might think, like, the first time you go through any sort of training class, you're like, oh, geez, am I going to hurt the dog? And any trainer will tell you, you're not going to hurt that dog. Promise.
Right. But, yeah, well, to be fair, we're talking about your cats, Scott, and I really don't know much about training cats at all because I don't have any cats. Okay. David is known as the cat whisperer and has been since I've known him. And he told you a while back, no, man, you can train those cats. And then there was someone that was coming into your place that was saying your cats are out of control and started a little spray bottle at their face. Yeah. And you felt bad for them.
For a minute. Now I'm used to, now I'm doing it too. She taught me how to do it too. So, like, my one cat likes to run out the door.
Does she know when I came to your place last week, you let that cat up on the freaking counter where he's not supposed to be?
Yeah. She doesn't know that. No, but she does now. Thank you.
Oh, sorry.
Jackass.
It's accountability, Scott.
I know.
It's got to be consistency. That's what David told you. I'm here to help, not to hurt. You know that.
I got no problem with the dog on the leash, though. I got no problem with that. So, there. Let it go. Leave my cats alone.
Let them have free reign. Okay, what's your story, Scott?
In North Dakota, this is a teacher story, too. North Dakota's Republican governor there, Doug Burgum, has signed a bill into law that will allow public school teachers and state government employees to ignore the pronouns their transgender students and colleagues use. The new law also requires teachers to tell a parent or legal guardian if the student identifies as transgender. It also prohibits transgender students from using the bathroom of their choice without prior approval from a parent or guardian. It goes into effect now.
Okay.
Why is that controversial? Why is this even a news story? I don't understand. Why, if you're a teacher, you would allow this just to happen in your classroom without parental notification at all?
Well, some are very protective of that because they want to indoctrinate your kids.
Boggles my mind.
I know.
That you have to have a law, and it's news.
Yes.
Hey, you can't. Hey, by the way, boy, you can't go in the girls' restroom. Newsflash! Oh my gosh.
Hey, David.
Yeah.
For my story, should I turn the heat up on Scott, or should I just back off and light it?
Turn it up, man.
Okay. For my story today, The great Sonny Hostin from The View spoke yesterday
huge
about
racist,
the
huge racist
Texas shooter.
Yes.
Okay. So I thought we could gather around, maybe, go in with an open mind and maybe try to learn something from Sonny.
No. Okay. Go ahead, though.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the race piece because, and we're not going to mention what the name of the group he belonged to was, but this shooter, who happened to be Hispanic and Latino, which is very bizarre to me, had a white supremacy moniker on him. And so, Christopher Wray, these are not my words, so people don't start with the I'm a race baiter crap.
You are, though.
Christopher Wray...
See, the FBI said it, so it must be true.
Well,
Christopher Wray said it.
Let me guess. It's that the number one domestic terror threat is white supremacy or whatever,
yes.
Which he actually came back and clarified what he meant by that afterward, but liberals seem to have amnesia about that.
Yes. She goes on.
Christopher Wray said that the biggest threat to our democracy is white supremacy and domestic terrorism. He testified before Congress. And even with that testimony, you have someone named Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, where there have been so many shootings, saying mental health and there's nothing else that we can do, but we can do this piece. Republicans should be ashamed of themselves. They have the power to make the change. Get rid of the AR-15s.
I want to
Get rid of the
one thing.
And then you think all of a sudden that you're just going to magically make it stop? How many guns are in America? Is it over 400 million?
I don't know.
I think it's over 400, between 400 and 450. Okay. And most are semi-automatic handguns. That's what kills the most people. You think that you're just going to wipe those away?
Yeah, you're not.
What are you even talking about? As David said yesterday, something has changed over the last 30 years.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at, we are in not the most restrictive, but one of the most restrictive environments for gun ownership and purchasing in the United States of America's history. And yet we see this more and more and more. Things like the tragedy in Allen, etc. And there's been a cultural change that is beyond just gun ownership, which, again, gun ownership rates have been pretty consistant for the last 60 years.
The other thing they will not talk about. The Robbins Show. Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, Scott Robbins. Go ahead, David. This story's nuts, man.
Yeah, it is. So Pride organizers around the country, according to NBC News, actually, let me correct that. I believe it was NBC News publishing an Associated Press report.
Okay.
But apparently they're very, very worried about states cracking down on drag shows for children. And they're wondering, they're scrambling now to figure out how the show will go on. How do you have a drag show at the Pride rally? And in fact, how do you have a Pride rally without a drag show where children can stuff dollar bills into a man's G-string?
Well, you learn the value of work and money.
They don't frame it that way. They just say that these are anti-LGBTQ states like Tennessee and Texas and Florida, where Pride organizers are wondering how to get around these things. And one of them, in one instance in Florida, they just moved the drag show to a 21 and up venue, which is like, that's literally all we wanted.
Yeah.
What's the problem?
Just don't have dudes in G-strings asking for tips from toddlers
while gyrating.
It's not that hard.
No, it's not. Can you imagine if it was like a parade around the country and it's just a bunch of strippers? We want to bring out the young males out there to see them gyrate and tuck dollar bills. People be freaking out. And rightfully so.
Just stay the hell away from the kids.
That's all you got to do. And the left, man, oh man.
So let all of us, 100 people, not walk, but sashay down there.
No.
Are you ready?
Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, and Scott Robbins.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Making sense of it all
Now I get it.
and having some fun.
Lighten up, Francis.
The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. Representative Markley, David Van Camp, Scott Robbins. Okay, man, there's a whole lot to get to. I have some audio of Trump. You may have heard this before. It was when he was being deposed. It's wild, man. And some people be like, that is one of the most hilarious things I've ever heard. And other people will say, that's certainly not going to help his case.
When did this happen?
He was deposed a while ago. Well, the jury has started deliberations in the E. Jean Carroll rape and defamation civil suit against him. So we'll get to that in just a few. But before we get there, a Texas Democrat, David, has compared gun rights to lawn darts?
Yeah. Texas Democrat Matthew Dowd, who ran for lieutenant governor as, in his words, a gift to black people. Remember that? I'm running so that I can give black people a chance. He's this old white guy. Used to be a Republican and then is now a Democrat because he, like so many others, lost his mind when Trump became president. And he says it's the governor's fault that a lunatic murdered 8 people at the outlet mall in Allen over the weekend. Because apparently it's because Governor Abbott will not ban guns. And he used this comparison on MSNBC.
Okay.
In 1988, I don't know if anybody, probably some people on this panel remember, there was a thing called lawn darts. And lawn darts was a game where it had a metal spike on it. You threw it up in the air. It was an insane game. We had it growing up. And you throw it and it drops in a circle. 3 children died from lawn darts. They banned lawn darts after 3 children died from lawn darts. Texans will record 4,000 gun deaths or more this year as we move forward in this.
Well,
okay.
Well, one, you don't have a constitutional right to keep and bear lawn darts. The other thing is, if you're saying we should make it illegal to have kids play with guns, I have good news for you. That is also not lawful.
So problem solved.
It's a terrible comparison here.
For so many different reasons. I mean, honestly, I'm thinking about going with a line of lawn dart T-shirts right now. Just as go. I think people would buy it, actually.
Come and take it?
Absolutely. You try to stop me from playing lawn darts with my kids. Double dog dare you.
Take it from my cold dead hand.
Biggest problem with that game is it's boring.
Lawn darts?
Oh, yeah. Didn't you play lawn darts as a kid?
Sure, everybody did.
Okay.
Everybody threw them at each other, too.
That could happen.
Yes, it always broke out that way.
Well, yes. And to be fair, I mean, if you did have a BB gun,
yeah,
and you were given the talk about safety and everything else,
yeah,
yes, did that stop you from playing games trying to shoot your brother?
No, I didn't have a brother, but
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I shot at other people's brothers.
But to compare the Second Amendment then to lawn darts, please, it's just stupid. I mean, this whole argument with Democrats and the guns, and again, they will refuse to talk about things that you could do right now. When you're talking about kids, like fortifying schools. People don't want to have the conversation. The guns are not going to go anywhere. Where are they going to go?
Yeah, they're already in existence. They're already in circulation. And yeah, I just still want to know, and we're supposed to have an update sometime today about this, but what I'd really like to know is how this particular guy was able to not just buy a weapon, but also to get his, level 2 and 3 certification for a security guard, which does require background checks at multiple points. And if he got bounced out of the Army for mental health problems, is that not a red flag? Is this a situation where the reporting just didn't happen, or?
That's the thing that honestly I don't know, and was asking yesterday because that was 2008.
Yeah.
Okay, there are times people go through a mental crisis in their life, and you could say 5 years later, they're fine. So does that change then, and then you would be allowed? I don't know the answer to the question, to be honest.
I don't either.
But obviously that seems to have been in play.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you read anything of what this guy wrote, no, he was not of right mind, but he did not want help either.
No.
And that is the heck of a problem that families have with people that really don't want help. Mm-hmm. They go off on their own. Yes. All right, more on that a little bit later. As far as Texas goes, this is so frustrating because this could have been avoided, this entire, invasion at the border, basically.
Yeah.
And the Biden administration is now giving a heads up to illegals.
Yeah. Border Patrol, to set the stage here, is reporting that there were more than 18,000 known gotaways at the border last week. And so that's Bill Malugin gave this comparison. He showed a picture of a packed arena where the San Antonio Spurs play.
Yes.
And he said that's that coming into the country illegally that we know of.
Right.
That did not have any interaction with law enforcement in a week. And the numbers are probably much higher than 18,000. Well, the Biden administration put out a press release explaining that they're beginning an operation to track down some of those people. And as Fox News' Bill Malugin reports, from a strategic standpoint, it is puzzling that DHS would announce this publicly via a press release, which essentially gives these evaders and gotaways a heads up that they're coming. Already hearing from frustrated Border Patrol agents saying the operation will now be worthless. Because usually you launch this operation and then you put out a press release talking about the results. You don't say, hey, we're coming for you.
Yeah. They want people here illegally. I mean, there's no other explanation. And when you look at it, even though it doesn't make sense to a lot of us, like, why would they do A, B, and C? To me, all right, tell me if I'm nuts here, all right? And it's the tinfoil hat. Call me out. That's exactly what this administration and the left wants, especially the ruling class elite, because this benefits them in the end. It may not benefit, just law-abiding, working hard American citizens, but the ruling elite, this benefits in the end. And so that's why it's happening, because they really run everything. And there are plenty of Republicans that are in Congress are getting money and getting independently rich that are not fighting for the people that they represent. All right, call me a kook. Go ahead.
No. That makes more sense than anything else I've heard.
It's a long-standing issue here that especially corporate America, which really doesn't care who's in power, I think a lot of them tend to like Republicans more because of tax cuts and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But they love this because they can hire people for pennies on the dollar and they don't have to worry about it. I mean, but we've already had the stories come out about 14-year-old, 13-year-old working in a slaughterhouse and whatnot all over the country because they had a so-called sponsor who was really just pimping them out to whoever was willing to take them on to, pluck chickens or whatever.
Yes. Not to mention how much money the cartels are making.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. All right, we got to move over to Trump. Before we get to my clips, he's got the CNN town hall coming up.
Yeah, and he put out a post on Truth Social advertising it, saying, I'll be doing CNN tomorrow night live from the great state of New Hampshire because they are rightfully desperate to get those fantastic Trump ratings once again. They made me a deal I couldn't refuse. Could be the beginning of a new and vibrant CNN with no more fake news. Or it could turn into a disaster for all, including me. Let's see what happens. Wednesday night at 8. The man is nothing if not a great promoter, okay?
That's a promo, man.
No doubt. Okay, have you followed this at all? I've heard the, rips and drabs of the E. Jean Carroll rape and defamation lawsuit against Trump.
Yeah.
Because in the end, like when you hear her testimony, it's very thin. There's not a lot there.
Yeah.
Okay, especially because she can't remember exactly when it was. There was a number of different things of what she alleges. Okay. The reason I bring it up is because I had not heard this until yesterday, and I think Megyn Kelly had it on her podcast. Was talking about how the court allowed Trump's deposition to be presented to the jury. And if you are a legal expert and your take is, well, what he said may have been entertaining for some, I don't know that it helped him. I think that's probably accurate.
Yeah.
But it's so Trump the way he answered some of the questions. So you have the lawyer asking the questions, and they bring up what he said, years ago on NBC, the whole grab him by the...
Yeah, remember that.
Okay? Because what E. Jean Carroll was alleging was that he was shopping for lingerie for his then wife, Marla Maples, and he runs into her at this lingerie store and, hey, do you want to help me shop? And I'm paraphrasing, but then they go into this dressing room and she didn't want to try it on, but then that's when the assault happened. Right. Okay. So to sort of, I don't know, prove that point, the lawyer's asking, okay, when you said that, sort of what did you mean? And she quotes him again.
I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. Just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything. That's what you said, correct?
Well, historically, that's true with stars.
It's true with stars that they can grab women by the pussy?
Well, if you look over the last million years, I guess that's been largely true. Not always, but largely true. Unfortunately or fortunately.
Okay, stop there. Look, David, you're covering your face.
Okay. Yeah, I heard that earlier.
Oh boy,
he's not wrong. Where I think he really shot himself in the foot was saying "fortunately" or "unfortunately" like that. Well, I mean, that's just
if you're
how
a rock star, you're pretty fortunate. Well, what are you saying,
right.
dude?
That's how he talks. But I mean, if he says the last million years, that's kind of how it's. Well, that is true.
Yes. But wouldn't you say that's because the argument would be a lot of women don't mind, but some women do?
Mm-hmm. Well, yes. Well, that's why, again, that's why the unfortunately or fortunately thing is such a boneheaded thing to say.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I had to throw a flag on that one. It's like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah, I know. It goes on.
And you consider yourself to be a star?
I think you can say that, yeah.
And now you said before, a couple of minutes ago, that this was just locker room talk.
It's locker room talk.
And so does that mean that you didn't really mean it?
No, it's locker room talk. I don't know. It's just the way people talk.
Yeah.
It's just so Trump, man. Talk. That's what it is. And then they brought up him saying about E. Jean Carroll, she would be my first choice, like not my type sort of thing. The lawyer is pretty famously a lesbian. And what Trump says did have people laughing, actually.
When you said in that video that Ms. Leeds would not be your first choice, you were referring to her physical looks, correct?
Just the overall. I look at her, I see her, I hear what she says, whatever. You wouldn't be a choice of mine either, to be honest with you. I hope you're not insulted. I would not, under any circumstances, have any interest in you. I'm honest when I say it. I would not have any interest in.
Who are you? Okay?
Oh, my God.
I look at you. I hear the way you talk. Right? Just being honest.
Just being honest, the overall.
No interest.
Well, they're not going to get him on perjury. That's for sure.
Yeah, who would perjure themselves with that?
All right. The Neely family out of New York demands a call from Mayor Eric Adams. We will get to that and much more coming up. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, Scott Robbins. Okay, what's the update on that story in New York?
Oh, yeah. New York is still dealing with protests over the killing of Jordan Neely. Neely was a homeless man with a history of violence and was threatening people on a train last week. He died after a former Marine who happened to be on that train stepped in, intervened, and then put him in a headlock. Now, that guy...
Haven't these protesters heard that he had used gay slurs in the past?
They had not. No.
Oh.
No. And for some reason, they're still... like whining at the NYPD, which makes no sense because the cops had nothing to do with it.
Oh, a lot of times.
I didn't understand that one either.
The protesters rarely make sense.
Yeah.
A lot of them are paid.
A lot of them come from out of town, apparently don't even know what happened. They're just there to raise hell.
You go with the same chance, and it's against the police, and you're just, raising your fist because of injustice.
Well, the family of Jordan Neely has now come out of the woodwork and, of course, is demanding action. They want the young Marine to be charged with murder, and they're saying to the mayor of New York City, Eric Adams, please give us a call. The family wants you to know that Jordan matters. I mean, not enough. Didn't matter enough for you to take care of him, but, whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
The truth is, this guy knew nothing about Jordan's history when he intentionally wrapped his arms around Jordan's neck and squeezed and kept squeezing. There's been no expression of regret. It's a character assassination and a clear example of why he believed he was entitled to take Jordan's life. He
usually wouldn't go after a family in a grieving sort of time, but with that statement about the retired Marine, did you care enough about his life to keep him housed?
Nope.
Do you feel guilty for booting him? For not giving him a place to stay because he was homeless?
No.
No regrets there?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be any.
Wouldn't you say then you're part of the problem? Was he just uncontrollable? What's the deal? Why was he homeless? You're his family. And now you're making demands? Sorry, with all the things going on in the world and prayers to be sent out to different people, that's not at the top of my list right now. Give me a break. The guy he just, recently clocked a 67-year-old woman to the point where it fractured part of her face and she has permanent brain damage. He was a threat to society. He was threatening people on the subway. The ex-Marine took care of it. He didn't mean to kill him. I do believe that 100%.
No.
But this just rings so hollow.
Yeah.
Just tired of that kind of crap.
This is well, the guy is currently alive and needing help. You don't help. And when something like this happens, now everybody's there.
And listen, man, there's part of me, I don't know the whole story. It's quite possible, and I would say probable, that they couldn't give him a place to stay. Because you had heard different stories. He threatened the grandfather. You don't want Gramps getting beat up by this guy. He needed help. I mean, he needed to be put away a while ago. And then you hear all this stuff, society failed him, blah, 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 blah. Goodness gracious. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins show. Okay, if we have to pick one big story of the day so far, David, what is it?
I think probably the biggest story is what is going to happen moving forward at the border. I mean, you've already got 18,000 plus known gotaways, plus another several tens of thousands of people who have come into contact with Border Patrol on their way into the United States. And the Biden administration is just going to try to release some pressure by releasing a bunch of people from custody. This is going to be a crap show.
That's what they want. It's what they want. And we can get more into this. But I heard them jawing about, we're doing everything we can. No, you're not. Not even close, because we have some ideas of what you could be doing. That much more coming up. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins show. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Jeremy Markley, the Gen Xer. David Van Camp, the Millennial. The sexy boomer, Scott Robbins.
Yes.
Real quick, talking about the border, I'm just going to say this real quick. You don't need to stay on it. It's driving me insane watching the coverage. Today's show, Good Morning America, and the clips from the White House, different people. We're doing everything we can right now as far as the end of Title 42 and the surge at the border. It's okay. No, you're not.
Maybe they are.
Really?
They just can't do anything.
Yeah.
You can't call the military down there and stand along the border and say, you're not coming in?
That's such a simplistic approach to a very complex problem, Jamie. It's just not that easy.
No, you tell them no.
Then don't tell me you're doing all you can do, because you're not.
Not.
You want it to happen.
I mean, I've said it. One of the simplest solutions right now is we're ending the asylum program. We're going to end it temporarily. We're going to suspend it for 12 months. To deal with the current backlog, to try to make sure that the people who have legitimate asylum claims can stay, and those who don't get deported or otherwise find another legal way of coming into this country.
And you know what's going to happen? Because from estimates, and it's being generous, there might be 3% of all that have come in who have legit asylum claims. Probably lower than that. But for the sake of argument, let's say it's 3%, right? You know what we're going to hear then after that? Well, you just can't round up 12 million people.
Right.
Yeah, but you just can't do that. And they keep kicking the can down the road. It's been going on for decades. And again, because the elite, they benefit from all this. They don't give a flip. They just get out there and say, we got to do something about this broken immigration problem. Cha-ching! Well, they're getting rich. Not good for the American worker. Gosh dang it. I know we got to move on. It's so maddening.
It is.
For so many people. I'm not the only one. I did see this story. It's interesting. There's backlash against the $3 trillion clean energy push. This was in the Wall Street Journal. And, it tells the story of different people that own land where, you have wind farms come in and saying, hey, we're going to give you this amount of money for this, whatever. And some people saying, no, I'm not going to do that here. We don't want it for a number of different reasons. It could be wildlife. It could be, well, what happens when you have, the wind farms and you're close to it, it disturbs your sleep. You know about this phenomenon?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All these different reasons.
The humming sound.
There's that, and then and then you're disrupted during the daytime as well.
Yes.
It's like a health aspect to it.
Right.
And a number of other issues. I just thought it was really interesting to actually hear people's stories of why they don't want that, on their land, and they don't want to give up their land for that. And it's interesting because you certainly have people on the coasts that are all about the clean energy and the wind farms and all that until they start talking about wind farms in their area. Whoa,
Right.
hold on a second. We're supposed to pipe that in from another state.
Yeah.
Those flyovers that we don't care about.
Well, yeah, it's like spend a little bit of time in the middle of the country and you might understand this pushback a little bit more. And it's not universal pushback, but I remember what was now more than 10 years ago when I was a news reporter in Missouri, rural Missouri, and there was this big push to put a transmission line that would bring wind energy from Kansas, I believe, up through into Illinois and over into Chicago. And a lot of farmers were like, well, no, you can't just that's valuable acreage that you're talking about plowing through. I'm not interested in giving this up. And then, of course, you have the heavy-handed at that time approach of the Obama administration, which was talking about things like eminent domain and all this.
Yeah.
And these guys are like, well, wait a minute, hold on a second. I don't even get to benefit from the renewable energy that you're piping in to Chicago? Hold on a second.
Yeah. So the story talks about there's battles being waged in so many different counties across the United States, and then depending on what state you're in, state like Illinois could say, hey, well, your county rules can't supersede the Illinois rules.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on a second. So, yeah, there's a fight going on all over. It's
Wait
just
till the
really
birds get organized.
Yeah.
Well, what was it you were just talking about, David?
Oh,
off
yeah.
there?
The leader of, or the co-founder, I should say, of Greenpeace, Patrick Moore, says that there's just a wholesale slaughter of whales going on as they're putting wind farms in the Atlantic Ocean. And we've talked about this before. And some of this, what they're talking about isn't necessarily just the windmills themselves, but it's the exploration. They put down depth charges and whatnot that completely freaks out the whales and disrupts their normal migration patterns. So that's why they wind up washing up onto the shore or otherwise, just dying in large numbers. 36 whales have washed up along the East Coast since December 1st.
Yeah, we were watching the footage of this later yesterday afternoon.
And, so this, apparently Patrick Moore is speaking out after 4 minke whale corpses were discovered between Thursday and Sunday in New York and New England. And as the New York Post puts it, the 4-day run of death began off of Cape Cod on Thursday with a second whale found at York, Maine on Friday, the final corpse in Massachusetts on Sunday.
What? Why are you both looking at me?
Well, you're a card-carrying member of Greenpeace.
Of Greenpeace.
I haven't been a member of Greenpeace in like 30 years.
You got the T-shirt.
I had the T-shirt. I just ran across a picture of me in the T-shirt not too long ago. Had a lot more hair then. Yes, man. I've explained this on the air before. I was in rock radio. I had Rolling Stone magazine coming all the time, and I read this thing about they're killing all the whales and the dolphins and the tuna nets and give. I'm like, yeah, man. Guys from Soundgarden are in on it. I'm in on it. We're freaking right. So, yeah, I was a Greenpeace guy for a little while. Yeah. Still got a coffee mug somewhere, I think.
Well, do you still want to save the whales or not?
In this case, yes, save the
Okay.
whales. That's an ongoing joke in my family because they make fun of that.
Right.
Right. Yeah, and I used to say, save the whales.
Save the whales.
But you got to understand, man, when you're like 23, 24 years old,
right,
and you're wearing the shirt,
yes,
and maybe a young lady asks about it, well, so you care about the whales? As a matter of fact, I do.
Very sensitive guy.
Oh, yeah.
If I could have a whale as a pet, I would. I go to sleep over the sounds of whales.
Did you know how intelligent dolphins are? How they communicate with one
No,
another?
they're pretty smart, yeah. I heard that.
Well,
and the way the males and the females, they bond together, there's really something beautiful about it. Really?
Yes. We'll say there is one guy on this show who has held a dolphin's head in his hands.
I did.
And stared into the eyes of the majestic creature before you hugged it and rode it.
I did.
Yeah, so you can't ever really make fun of me for any past
I don't have a
Greenpeace.
T-shirt, though. I do have a stuffed dolphin.
Yeah,
You do have a stuffed dolphin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, again, man, if you don't know the story, and we'll move on, we got to get to other stuff. But it was Scott after his heart attacks, and it's like his first time back on the air. And I mentioned a bucket list, like what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Like anything that you'd really like to do, you know, before it's all said and done. First thing he said, we have the audio.
I would like to hug a dolphin. And David made my dream come true.
I did, yeah. A year and a half ago or whatever.
Yes.
Went to SeaWorld in San Antonio, and you hugged a dolphin, and you rode on
did.
that sucker.
Did. Yeah, it was magical.
I thought I was going to have another heart attack putting that wetsuit on. Ever put one of those things on? Holy smokes, Daddy-O.
Yeah, when I swam with the dolphins, it was the ocean out in the middle, like the Caribbean. There was no scuba suits or anything else. It was just like a big ring. Just jump in. Not a lot of regulations there.
No, I was just going to say.
A lot of fun, though.
Right.
Okay, David, you've talked about this story, and I cannot wait to hear the audio. Now, this is a woman that wrote a kid's book about dealing with grief after her husband died, which sounds sort of heartwarming in a way. It's certainly touching, but there's a twist to this story.
Yeah, it was in Camas, Utah. She wrote a children's book about coping with grief after her husband died last year. Now the cops have arrested her for murdering her husband.
Whoa.
So Corey Richens is the woman's name. Her husband, Eric, died in his sleep in March of last year. The cops, well, they say after an extensive investigation, say that, well, she gave her husband a mixed drink that was laced with fentanyl, a Moscow Mule, if you're interested in what drink that was.
Wow.
So apparently this started a few weeks before he died. She bought some hydrocodone from a friend claiming that a client of hers had a back injury. And so there was this really shady exchange where someone left the pills in a house that she was flipping, and then she left cash when she took the pills.
Wow.
In this empty, abandoned house. And then 2 weeks later, she asked the friend for something stronger. And the quote from the police is some of the Michael Jackson stuff. And then explicitly asked for fentanyl. The friend came through. $900 worth of fentanyl.
Okay.
Apparently that was like 15 to 20 pills or something like that. I don't remember what the exact number was now. Now on Valentine's Day, she and her husband had a nice dinner, and the husband got really sick. Apparently he had told a friend that he thought his wife was trying to poison him after that.
Yeah, but who hasn't thought that?
So presumably she had tried to dose him with fentanyl that night. He got really, really sick. God. And then for some reason, 2 weeks later, Corey the wife bought another batch of fentanyl, and that's what killed her husband. And it was like a few days later, after she bought the second batch, they're celebrating her closing on a house or closing on a deal for a business. Okay. And he's in bed, and she brings him a Moscow Mule, and he drinks it. There's fentanyl in it, and he dies, which I'm sort of sitting here saying, if I think my wife is poisoning me, I am not going to take a mixed drink in bed.
I'm not eating the meatloaf either.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that.
No, thank you.
Not trying to.
Okay, I don't know that there's any part of this story, but it's odd that it's like, hey, you ready for bed? Here's a drink. I mean, I'm thinking that's leading to something else, right?
Oh, yeah, maybe, yeah.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll drink it. You know, thinking this is going to get funky here.
Right. Men in there, yeah, I know.
The blood flow had been redirected from the brain. Is
There you go.
What you're saying, yes.
Yeah.
Well, now, this woman did an interview, actually, with ABC4, Utah local news outlet.
Mm-hmm.
About a month ago, she did this interview because she had just released the book, and they're saying, hey, this is a sad story, but it's kind of uplifting that this woman is trying to break through with the grief. And credit to ABC4, they left the interview up because they said just out of transparency, but there is a editor's note now that says, oh, by the way, this crazy lady's been charged with murder. This is crazy audio when she's talking about dealing with grief and writing the book with her kids.
All right, roll it.
It completely took us all by shock. And we have 3 little boys, 10, 9, and 6. And, you know, my kids and I kind of wrote this book on the different emotions and grieving processes that we've experienced last year. And it's kind of the 3 C's is how I visualize it. And it's, you know, connection, continuity, and care.
And Corey, do you mention at dinner, here's Dad, or Dad would like this meal, or Dad would, let's bring Dad on a bike ride?
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it's just comforting to them to know that, you know, they're not living this life alone. Like, Dad is still here, it's just in a different way.
And it's only been a year. How did you process and say you go from processing death to I need to write a book and help others?
You know, I just watched the struggle that my kids were going through, and I actually, you know, I went on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and trying to find something that we could use to cope at nights. Nights are the hardest, it seems like, for everybody when, you know, dealing with anything, but I just wanted some story to read to my kids at night.
Holy smokes,
How can you
I wasn't grieving. I planned it, but my kids, they were sad.
Yeah, so I figured out how I'll help them.
Oh, wow, man. That is wild. Wow.
When mom kills dad.
Yeah. Yeah, wow. that probably will sell more, actually.
Right.
Just the story about what happened, what really happened here.
First edition signed.
It's a dark twist on Hop on Pop.
Oh, man.
Have another drink.
Dude. Yeah, that's going to be a movie at some point in time. Boy, Joe Biden's back in the news, and not in a way he wants. That and much more coming up right here. All right, then. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. Jeremy Markley, David Van Camp, Scott Robbins. Happened to see this at Daily Wire. Remember Tara Reid? Anybody?
Oh, yeah.
Not the actress. The woman who says that she was sexually assaulted by Joe Biden.
Correct. Did you see what she put on social media within the last week?
Oh, yeah. If she ends up dead, she didn't kill herself?
Yes. If something happens to me, all roads will lead to Joe Biden.
That was pretty cryptic, wasn't it? Huh?
Well, Hunter Biden might be indicted this week. I mean, you have that going on. There's a lot of different things going on around the Bidens right now. But she put out there, I want to make something clear. If something happens to me, all roads lead to Joe Biden. Joe Biden and the DNC political machine threats, bullying, and intimidation over the last 3 years will not work. I am not suicidal. I should not be under investigation, nor am I a foreign agent. I am a private citizen. I was a former staffer of Joe Biden's that has chose to step forward to tell the truth. The tactics using intimidation and bullying to silence me and suppress me, using the Department of Justice and the FBI and social media will not work. Leave me alone. I will testify under oath in Congress if asked to do so and tell what happened and what I know. The Biden corruption must end. And then she says, thank you to Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz for inviting me to testify and caring about the truth. What does all that mean?
Is she under investigation as like a foreign spy right now?
I don't know. I don't know if because she has been talking about appearing to testify, and this would be from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz bringing her in, that someone gets word of it and then the threats start coming. I don't know.
Joe, Bill Clinton on line 1.
And, you know, it used to be you'd sort of take this with a grain of salt. But after the Twitter files, and seeing how intimidation happens from the Department of Justice and the FBI, you're not quite sure about what's really going on. There are a lot of people that could go down if indictments fall and it goes into the Biden family business. And then you got people turning on one another.
Oh, boy.
Oh, yeah, buckle in. This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show.
Are you ready?
Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, and Scott Robbins.
We just become best friends. Yep.
Making sense of it all.
Now I get it.
And having some fun.
Lighten up, Francis.
This is
Robbins Show. Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, Scott Robbins.
Joan, Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it. Shanga, Kawawa.
Kawawa.
I think I pronounced it correctly.
Okay, the real pronunciation is what?
Well, hold on a second. The best part.
I think I pronounced it correctly.
No.
I think I got it.
If you think that, you need to resign today.
Yeah, I think I got it right. Yeah, it's Joan Shigekawa.
Joan Shigekawa.
Yeah.
Again?
Joan, Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it. Shanga, Kawawa.
Kawawa.
I think I pronounced it correctly.
Yeah.
Not the first time with her either, right?
No, it's not. Yeah, I did it before like 2 months ago.
He's run through this before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Screwed it up then.
Well, I think when he tried it before, he had like an assistant
Yeah.
to help him along the way.
The contribution of Joan, Shigekawa. Thank you.
That wasn't an assistant. That was her.
Oh, golly.
She's there.
I
Like,
didn't see the video.
like 10 feet away from him. Shigekawa, sir. I like that laugh before it, too, where he's like, I'm never getting this one.
You saw the day that he had the press conference?
Yeah.
Who to call on?
Yeah.
The names. And it wasn't just the names, it was how to pronounce the names.
Not only the names and how to pronounce it, but also the picture.
Yes. But still.
Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it. Shanga.
Yeah, grr.
Shingang.
It'd be different if it was kind of in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not even in the neighborhood.
Yeah,
what?
If it's like Shikikawa or something like that,
Right.
And
you give him a pass on
like,
that, right?
Yeah, I mean it's a Japanese name, and it doesn't always roll off the tongue for an English speaker, and people can understand that.
Close enough for jazz, right? But that's
he's like Shang.
Right.
Well, I like the way the White House too when they're questioned about Joe. You know, does he fit? How dare you?
Yeah.
Young people can't keep up with him.
No.
You guys so alert and fit and mentally, physically. Dude, how could you even ask?
Shingang, I'm going to pronounce it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Golly.
Yeah, we're doing
Gone.
everything we can at the border. Everything.
Gone.
Except having the military go there and say, you can't come in. Well, you can't do that. That's inhumane. It's so frustrating. Joy Reid in the news because she's mad at CNN. Why?
Yeah, well, Donald Trump is doing a town hall with CNN tomorrow night. Liberals are mad about it, of course, although he put out on Truth Social today advertising it, saying, hey, could be a new beginning, could be a disaster for everyone, including me. Watch and find out tomorrow, 8 o'clock Eastern.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah. Liberals are mad about this, though, because they're giving a dangerous man a platform. Here's MSNBC's Joy Reid with former conservative commentator turned communist apologist Charlie Sykes.
Okay.
Give me a chance.
Here we go.
It feels to me like this is a pretty open attempt by CNN to push itself to the right and make itself attractive and show its belly to MAGA and to conservatives, hoping that they will tune in. That's what it feels like to me. What does it seem to you?
Well, it feels like horrifically bad judgment to me. Let's be clear about this. This is not journalism. This is entertainment. In journalism, you actually will control with the questions and the answers, and you will have some sort of a filter for misinformation.
These two knuckleheads lecturing us about journalism. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
On MSNBC, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes, he's a former president who is
running for president.
Currently, still the Republican frontrunner. I'm sorry.
He makes news.
Yeah, I'm sorry if that gives you the sads here, and I love the programming expertise of Joy Reid. This feels like an attempt to get ratings. Well, yeah. Have you seen what CNN is doing right now?
Right.
Of course. Well, not only that, Trump is good for ratings, not just for MAGA. He was good for ratings for CNN and MSNBC when he was in office. You need him. That helps you. Wow.
They need anything other than what they have. An animated Popeye would help.
That is going to be fascinating.
I'll watch it.
The town hall thing.
I never watch them. So, yeah.
Well, that is true.
Yeah.
What, man, I know we've talked about it several times, about what's going on at Fox and the prime time and the ratings. Holy smokes.
I mean, I can only speak for myself, but my viewership of that network has dropped 100%.
And let me guess, it wasn't something that you consciously did.
No.
As like, I am boycotting. It wasn't that.
No, nothing like that. I just feel no need to watch.
I'm with you.
I mean, it's
100%.
a weird feeling because I used to watch Gutfeld a lot, and I guess Gutfeld's ratings are still good.
They still suffered,
but
not as bad as
like,
Hannity's and Ingram's, and certainly that's
out of the habit now. You know, I mean,
Tucker slot, man.
Yeah,
I mean, more than half of the people are gone.
Yeah, they're just gone.
They're getting beat by MSNBC.
Yeah.
It used to be in that slot, you'd take NBC, CNN, combine them, but not beating Fox. It's going to be fascinating to see how all that shakes out. And this week, I think they were trying to do something different by putting Kayleigh McEnany in there. I don't think it's going to help, to be honest.
Good luck with that.
I mean, maybe, a little? It's not going to solve the problem.
Maybe if you bring her in and Dylan Mulvaney.
Oh, good night.
Let's just stack one bad decision on top of another.
I'll say again, you bring in Dylan Mulvaney, at least you save on having to change all of the placards from Tucker Carlson. Just say Tucker.
I'm going to move on to the Washington Post story.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. I just kind of just now got that, by the way.
Did you like the visual on it? Speaking of Dylan Mulvaney, and you brought this up, David, in the Washington Post, talking about how they use the word, or the words anti-trans.
Yeah.
What exactly is anti-trans?
Well, for them, the article that I brought up yesterday was about polling that shows that a solid majority of Americans, Republicans, Democrats, and independents, actually still do have some common sense and say overwhelmingly, you know what, we're not really good with sex change operations for kids, for little kids. And not even just little kids. You're talking about teenagers, 13 to 15. It was like, 68% said, no, we shouldn't do that. And even up to 17, it was like 58%, a solid majority, still saying, no, that's crazy. And the Washington Post framed their own poll as most Americans support anti-trans legislation.
Yes. So many people wrote about that, including the Wall Street Journal. James Freeman saying Florida parents aren't the only ones who don't want a government employee talking to their 8-year-olds about sex. How is that hard to understand? Said you'd never know it much from national media coverage, but this issue has great resonance far beyond Florida. Talks about the Stockton University poll, which you were just talking about, David. Confirmed by, when you just talk to people, 2/3 of New Jersey parents want more say over what their kids are being taught in school. And for the left, they're like, why? Trust the schools. What? No, parents found out what you're teaching. Says parents in many school districts have sprung into action in response to state orders to start instructing grade school students in such politically divisive and personal issues as sexual identity and gender diversity. And it talks about how a few months into the pandemic, the administration of the governor of Jersey, Governor Phil Murphy, quietly ordered schools to instruct kindergarten through senior students in chosen views about gender and sexual orientation. Well, yeah. So it goes into some of the other polling. I don't think you quoted this one, David. On the topic of gender identity and sexuality, only 12% said it should be introduced in elementary grades K through 4. Mm-hmm. That's, as they mentioned, in this blue Northeast state. And an overwhelming majority say they don't want the subject introduced before middle school, and a full 21% said their preference is never. You don't need to teach it in school. So, yes. And then they get into the Washington Post calling it anti-trans. And the whole thing is, and they mention this, which is so true, one can show respect and compassion to all people while rejecting what's being taught in school or some sort of ideology. It doesn't mean you're a hater. You don't think that's good for kids. It's not necessary. And why is that something that so many on the left are willing to fight so hard for? To me, it's a tell.
Yeah.
So, interesting piece. On a lighter note, 82% of us have snooped through someone's phone before.
Oh, jeez.
What?
No,
that makes you nervous, doesn't it?
Well, no, I mean, you've got a code on your phone, though.
Yeah.
So
but sometimes you may leave the room.
Oh, and not have it still popped up on there. Okay.
Yes.
I see.
Might be that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yes. And so why would people do that? Well, people do snoop on their significant others. Yeah, they do. What are you looking for? Text messages, photos, videos, browser history. Mm-hmm. Those are the tops. Mm. You ever done it? Snoop through somebody's phone?
No.
David?
No. My wife and I share the passcode with each other, so we have access to the phones. A lot of that really kicked off just because of having kids. So if my phone's not near me, she's like, get a picture, get a picture. What's your code? I don't know.
Yeah, I know a lot of people that do that. Just, each other's code. It's not like you have anything to hide. Anyway, but some people do.
If you're in a dating situation, would you rather give them the code to your phone or the code to your ATM account?
Neither.
Okay, I'm just asking.
What part of dating are you talking about?
No, I'm just saying you've been involved with somebody for a long time, and would you give up? I reminded of the old Seinfeld episode where George wouldn't give up the code to his passcode to his ATM card.
What?
To his fiancée.
Oh, it's the fiancé.
Yeah.
It depends on who you are, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other part of that was the most concerning things people have found when they were asked in the survey. Flirtatious texts, proof of cheating, and evidence they've been lying in general.
Yeah.
Those were the toppers. Yeah. And when people snoop, they usually get away with it. 81% of snoopers say they've never been caught.
Mm-hmm. That they know of.
You're right.
Maybe
exactly.
some counter-espionage going on, too.
You never know.
Why? Just like the government, isn't it?
Yep.
It's the NSA in your relationship. Oh,
Sleeping
buddy.
with the enemy.
Okay, much more to get to. Wow, what people were trying to put into Florida textbooks. Have you heard this story? That and much more coming up right here. The Markley, Van Camp and Robbins Show. All right. Jamie Markley, David Van Camp, Scott Robbins. Who's excited about tomorrow? Who's afraid of a big letdown?
I'm afraid of a big, huge letdown.
Yeah,
actually.
Hunter Biden stuff that supposedly is coming.
Yeah.
I think it's beyond Hunter. That's what's being talked about online.
I hope I'm surprised, but I don't know, man.
I'm managing expectations.
Yeah, you're right, David. I'm kind of with you on that one.
Okay, if you're like, oh, what are you even talking about? A lot of people are reporting this and saw it. What was it? PJ Media, The Hot Air. James Comer, chair of the House Oversight Committee, preparing to drop a major bombshell about Joe Biden. It says, in fact, he's so convinced that this evidence is consequential that he's also spoken to the Department of Justice advising them not to indict Hunter Biden until the committee's forthcoming announcement.
Oh, well.
According to Comer, committee members have been meticulously studying bank records and consulting with former associates and whistleblowers, and this bombshell evidence will be released tomorrow. Comer said on Sunday, my message to the Department of Justice is very loud and clear. Do not indict Hunter Biden before Wednesday. And Comer made specific reference to the web of LLCs that the Biden family set up over the past dozen years or so. all these companies that exist on paper and have bank accounts, but they appear to have not engaged in any form of business. What? Yeah.
All men and women created by you know the thing.
We don't know the thing. What is that? Say they reportedly existed only to funnel money into and then distribute it in smaller laundered payments to as many as a dozen members of the Biden family. And where did that money come from? China. Then Russia and Ukraine, along with several other Eastern European nations.
Wow.
Okay, so there's supposed to be a joint press conference. Be Comer and Chuck Grassley tomorrow. As it says, Comer on the Oversight Committee. Grassley sits on the Judicial Committee. Okay, I'm admitting it. My hopes are up. I don't.
Yeah,
I don't.
mine are too, but
you can tell yourself, don't let your hopes get up.
Yeah.
But there's something in you that gets your hopes up.
My hopes could not be higher because my hopes are very, very, very low. So my ceiling is at like a 2 in terms of what I'm expecting.
I understand.
But man, they can't. How many times can you build something like that up only to deliver a nothing burger?
When's the last time that happened with Comer?
I don't remember.
I don't think it's happened yet, has it?
Okay, that's what I don't recall a time when it has. No.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Rudy Giuliani to come smashing through like the Kool-Aid guy.
Well,
dye running
dude,
down his head.
when the whole Kraken lady was saying, we're going to unleash the beast and all of that, we already kind of knew she didn't have the goods. You know? I think this is different. I could be wrong.
But coming from the David Van Camp school where nothing's going to happen.
I know.
Yeah, nothing's going to happen. It's okay.
No. Well, he could make history.
No one not done it. The history books will note it.
We'll see. Okay, what is the deal in the Florida textbooks, David?
Oh, man. So we keep hearing about Republicans banning books and whatnot, harming children, and because Republicans are finally standing up to the Marxist nonsense people have been putting into textbooks for years. So the Florida Department of Education rejected initially like 35% of submitted textbooks, then approved some of them after some changes. Lydia Nussbaum with Florida's Voice News reported on some of the changes. In one example, the textbook tells children that socialist economies, quote, make things nice and even without unnecessary waste.
Oh my
These
gosh.
societies may promote greater equality among people.
Oh, my.
Why would they ban that?
This is the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. Okay, biggest story of the day. And I got to say, man, before you even get to that, I can't wait to get to the story where I just heard you before we came back on say, I'm sick of these commies in our government.
Well, yeah, I mean, we got more of this nonsense happening at the federal level, so we'll be getting to that. I think really the biggest story is all eyes on the southern border right now, as we've already seen a huge surge of people coming in, and that's even before Title 42 is allowed to expire. This is really bad, and I feel like a broken record because it's been really bad for more than 2 years now.
Yeah.
But man,
and all by design. All right, so we'll get to that, and then Scott Robbins' top 3 of the day, the trifecta, all on the way right here. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. I'm Jamie Markley. That's David Van Camp. There's Scott Robbins. For the trifecta news update, David Van Camp.
Well, I do like hearing people say that there's a manufactured crisis at the border right now, that Republicans are making it up and all of that. It's like, I don't know, man. There are even Democrats in the city of El Paso who have been jumping up and down saying, what's the plan, guys, for a couple years at this point. So, yeah, I don't know how you can really say that it's a manufactured crisis. I mean, I guess technically it is a manufactured crisis in that it was manufactured on purpose by the Biden administration.
Yes. There's no other explanation for it. They got what they wanted. And, I mean, they could stop this at any time. They won't do it. It just is what it is.
Yep.
Is that what you were referring to with the get these commies out of my government?
Oh, no, there's another thing. So we keep hearing about how, the debt limit, debt ceiling negotiations, America could default on its obligations. Come June 8th, that would be the deadline. You know what? The Treasury Department, which is very worried about this potentially happening. You know what they got scheduled for June 8th?
What's that?
They're hosting the Q3 meeting of the Treasury Advisory Committee on Racial Equity. They will be talking about matters relating to the advancement of racial equity. This notification, blah, blah, blah. They go on with that's going to be happening on the day that America will default on its debt. Oh, no. I would think that it would be kind of all hands on deck, right?
You would think.
It's almost as if this is just some dog and pony show that everybody puts on periodically in order to win some political points and not actually looking out for America's future, financially or otherwise.
We've gone over this 100 times. I mean, and people that follow it and have common sense understand in so many of these places where being a, quote, person of color, where you're really disadvantaged, who's been in charge in those places, not for a few years, we're talking decades.
Yeah.
It's the left. It's Democrats. And then, we just keep preaching the same thing to people, then they keep voting for them. And the situation gets worse and worse and worse as time goes on. And you're able to blame the right for it. Oh, it's the Republicans. You've been in charge forever. What have you done? And we talked about this 100 times, too. It was all supposed to end with Obama. It got worse. So that's the way it's designed.
I read something, it was yesterday. You were talking about the people leaving blue states in droves.
Yeah.
And there was over 100,000, I believe, in Illinois in a year. 100,000 people gone. And they said a lot of the people are the big earners. They can afford to move, and they're moving, and they're taking their tax dollars with them.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Especially in the Chicago area.
Yeah.
It's pretty well documented.
They're just leaving. So that's why, with a lot of these elections, you keep getting like-minded people winning.
Yes.
Because the people who could vote them out choose to get out before it even happens.
Yes.
And there was a couple of cities I cited just that do this rinse repeat thing over and over again.
Well, and man, honestly, we don't have to go off on a total tangent, but I can sit here and say for three recovering liberals, a lot of people in their 20s, depending, sometimes in your 30s, whatever, you haven't been on this merry-go-round before. So many things are fresh, and you hear, man, we need to help people. Okay, it shouldn't be this way. And you look at kids in the inner city, and you have a heart for people. You're like, yes, let's do things to help people. You go through the entire cycle, and you come out of it going, wait a second. The people that are claiming to want to help the most are hurting the most.
Yeah.
And then you come to that conclusion saying you should go about this a different way, and you know what they scream? Racist!
I heard some idiot Democrat, it was a couple of weeks ago, say something about this is not your dad's Republican Party, your grandpa's Republican Party.
Joe Biden says that all the time.
And I'm like, hey, man, this isn't my dad's Democrat Party either.
Oh, my
It's not
goodness.
even close.
No.
Not even close.
No. And then you have people in charge. You know, we could go on and on and on. And I think of Janet yelling, well, I didn't quite understand inflation. The whole thing at the time.
Look, I think I was wrong then about the path that inflation would take.
But trust me now, because I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the elite get more money.
Eliter.
Yeah.
Is that a word?
That's nice.
It is now.
Oh, you know what, dude? There was one other story we had to get to for the trifecta. What is this story about a false rape allegation?
Oh, man, this is just a disgusting and angering story here.
Okay.
There was a standout NFL prospect. He had played with San Diego State University. He was a punter. Matt Araiza was signed to the Buffalo Bills, and he got cut because of a civil lawsuit alleging that he took part in a gang rape of a woman when he was still in college. And there were graphic allegations there, even though prosecutors had never they said there is no case to prosecute here. Okay. The civil litigation was graphic enough that the Buffalo Bills said, I think it's best if we just part ways here. They completely manned down. And now there's this big report out about how it was false and how this girl who was 17 showed up at this party and alleged that she was gang raped at a time when he was not there. He wasn't in the house.
Oh, wow.
And there's video evidence that shows he's leaving the house. There's also multiple witness statements that said that she was actively pursuing different men at the party. She did have relations with multiple men that night. There's video evidence that, according to prosecutors and everybody who's looked into this, was consensual. So in this case, you have a situation where somebody goes out, has a wild night. I don't know if the video gets put online somewhere. She's embarrassed, and then completely torches a guy's life.
Oh, my goodness.
And in this post-Me Too era that we live in, of course, it just it derailed his career. It's disgusting.
The thing is, too, man, for the Bills, if the guy's an outstanding quarterback, cornerback, he's a punter. Do we want all the controversy over the punter? Probably not. Yeah, sorry, cut. Oh, that sucks, man. By the way, Scott, you going to make it? You're all right over there?
Well, I've had this stupid cold for a while. It manifests itself at the inopportune times occasionally.
Okay.
But I'm a trooper. I'm fighting through it.
Just making sure. Man, you can take some time if you want it. If you want to skip the trifecta today.
No.
I mean, I think most people say, hey, man, you got to play. I mean,
well, you got to play. That's why I'm here.
You ready or not? Let's do this. Come on.
Are you ready?
1, 2, buckle my shoe on.
It's the 3 most important news stories of the day.
I hit the trifecta.
Well, at least according to Scott Robbins. It's the trifecta on the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show.
Every day at this time, Scott Robbins' top 3 stories of the day, always helped by his hero.
I'm Casey Kasem.
Yeah, of course. I think Casey's, of course, ready.
I'm ready.
Yes.
3.
Number 3, well, after partnering with transgender influencer, that weird little guy who says he's a girl, Dylan Mulvaney, Bud Light has been, taking quite a dip in sales numbers. And now, we've got a month's worth of numbers.
Yep. The April numbers are in. Mm-hmm. According to Beer Business Daily, Anheuser-Busch volumes were down 12% last month, led by Dylan Mulvaney poster boy Bud Light, down a staggering 21.4%. That's a big old piece of pie right there, baby. It was a massacre in favor of the folks over at Molson Coors. Iceberg straight ahead, guys. Molson Coors was up 7%, with both Miller Lite and Coors Light were in double digits.
Yeah.
So people have switched.
Well, again, you're walking through the beer aisle, and it's not out of anger necessarily, but if you're like, you know what, man, Miller Lite, Bud Light, pretty much the same, I'm just going with Miller right now. It's also a joke to hand a guy a Bud Light right now.
I've been asked before by people, why do you guys care so much? So what?
I don't care. I don't drink anymore.
I don't drink anymore either.
Well, I care.
I just like to point out the idiocy involved in marketing.
Yeah, not because of anything else, but this lunacy has invaded every single part of American life right now, where we are told it is essential to have kindergarten teachers talking to kids about trans stuff and all of it. And there are so many people who now just want to be left alone. And you think, okay, well, my beer company, right, my preferred brand or whatever isn't going to take part in this nonsense. That maybe could be a haven away from all of this stuff that we get inundated with day in and day out. And nope, they couldn't stay away from it. So you know what? Why I care is because at some point somebody does have to take a stand against this nonsense.
You know, okay. Sometimes you think really through a take before you just go with it, and I haven't. But that's not going to stop me. So tell me if this is stupid. Sometimes you will talk about, say, if you're a single person, someone you find attractive, right? And it might be because of their attitude or the way they talk, and you're like, wow, that's not attractive at all. I'm completely turned off by this. The attractiveness is gone.
Yeah, you're
right.
right.
The way I look at the Bud Light thing.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I used to feel okay about that. I don't feel good about it anymore. I'm just done. And yes, to, I think, InBev's point, that owns Anheuser-Busch, well, they'll probably choose one of our other products, because that could be Corona, could be a lot of other different things. It could be. But I think that's certainly part of it. Just like, well, I have choices, and now I'm going to make mine. It's not that.
And the old adage is what? Choices have voices.
Oh.
There you go.
Yes.
We're getting closer and closer to number one.
I've chanted that outside before holding a sign.
The Scott Robbins trifecta, top 3 of the day.
2.
Yes.
Number 2, postal carrier robberies are up significantly.
This is crazy. I hadn't even thought about this. The National Association of Letter Carriers outraged, angered by the assaults, armed robberies, and even murders that America's letter carriers increasingly face as they deliver the mail. These attacks are completely unacceptable, they said. Robberies of postal carriers went up 78% last year. That's according to data provided by the U.S. Postal Inspection Service. Over the last decade, crimes against USPS workers have quadrupled, and weapons increasingly are being used by the perps. Lowell, Massachusetts, a postal carrier, was slashed with a machete December of 2022. Milwaukee letter carrier, 18-year veteran, by the way, shot while on duty.
Wow.
Things are getting so dicey in one area, in a very Tony area of Santa Monica, they won't deliver mail there anymore. They drop it off. It's in like a mailbox. You got to go get it. Like the old days.
I did not realize that was that big of a problem.
Apparently, that happens a lot on when checks are being delivered. The first of the month stuff comes from the government.
I've had in my neighborhood a few times the like community mailboxes. You know, it's all like, you know, everybody mailboxes.
Yes, right.
Somebody takes a crowbar to it, pops it open multiple times. It sucks, man.
Wow. Something I don't know if I've ever told you guys before. I took a test to be a postman when I was 18.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not surprised.
Well, I didn't know. I would have been diagnosed with ADD at the time. That was a bombzo. That did not go well.
I could see
I remember. I think I passed, but you got to finish like at 90% or higher.
See those legs of yours in the white and the gray wool shorts, walking around whistling while carrying your mail pouch.
I didn't get it, okay? Back off.
We're getting closer and closer to number one.
Yes, we are, Casey. The Scott Robbins trifecta up to number
1.
Checking in on San Francisco, Target store there is seeing at least 10 thefts per day.
That's all?
It doesn't seem like a lot, but it certainly adds up. Yeah. T-Mobile, by the way, the latest retailer to close the flagship store in San Francisco in the same area as this Target store that we're going to talk about here. There's about 10 thefts a day, said one Target worker. And he said, look, every 10 minutes you see it. Another worker who also did not wish to be named said, hey, look in some corner of the store. You'll see people shoveling stuff in their bags. Food, cosmetics, whatever they can grab. Another person said it was lipstick, nail polish. He's anything that's not locked behind plastic.
Well, it's free. They don't
regularly
prosecute.
Stolen. People will steal like the candy bars.
Yeah.
Eat them right there in the store.
Yeah, you know why?
La, 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 I'm eating my candy bar. What are you going to do about it?
What are you going to do? Right.
Nothing.
Don't prosecute. It's like it's free.
So Target says we've got some decisions coming up here. Not that we want to close. We have to close. We're not making this is crazy.
Well, at first they were putting some of the products behind,
Well,
glass.
some of them are still behind
But
glass.
then you got people saying, well, that's racist.
Right. And when they say, hey, can you come over here and unlock this for they unlock it, they grab stuff out of it and just, that's it. What is going on, man?
And there you have it.
The Scott Robbins trifecta. Yes. All right, news update. Nimrod's the news. Straight ahead. All right. The Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show. Jamie Martin, David Van Camp, Scott Robbins. Man, never enough time. All right, quick news update and then the Nimrods. What do you got, David?
News update. The jury reaches verdict in E. Jean Carroll's civil suit against former President Donald Trump. Verdict is expected to be read in just a few minutes.
Okay.
They scheduled it for 3 o'clock Eastern. So,
okay. I think it'll be appealed. If they find him guilty, it'll be appealed quick. Because a lot of people didn't feel like he was going to get a fair trial there in New York. We'll see what happens.
Well, generally speaking, the jury comes back quickly. It doesn't portend very well for Donald Trump.
We shall see. All right, Nimrod, roll it out.
When the going gets tough,
Damn it, this is too hard.
the dumb get dumber.
All right, Ian.
It's Nimrod's in the News on the Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins Show.
I love the poorly educated.
All right. Nimrod's in the News. See if you've heard one like this before. This is something, man. 67-year-old exterminator in Pennsylvania facing charges. Why? Well, first of all, this happened in the town of Hastings. It's about 90 miles east of Pittsburgh. Owner of an apartment complex hired him to come in and spray pesticide in the units. One of the tenants found a spider a few days later, so they checked the footage from their security camera to make sure he actually sprayed pesticide, right?
Yeah.
Instead, they saw him spraying something else. He was whizzing in several different spots around their living room.
Come on, man.